Alright, this is my second take on this video. I finally learned how to use microphone gain on XFCE, so yeah, that's been that's been in the making for a while. You no longer have to turn up your volume to watch these videos. It's great. But today we're gonna talk about the big one. We're gonna talk about fucking censorship and why that's a problem. So, there used to be in 2013 is around the time when feminists started getting popular. And these feminists were kind of the harbingers of modern day neoliberalism, I'd say, There's different terms people will call them. But the point is, like, these corporate bootlickers that say, private company, they can ban you for whatever reason they want. We need to have strict moderation or else it'll just be a fucking Wild West on the internet with people will be doxing each other and spreading CP and all this other shit, And I kind of hate that now we've gotten to this point where you're either completely censored, like you're not allowed to say hell fuck, That's something that happened on YouTube is now if you say too many fucking curse words, your video gets demonetized. So a lot of people don't do that now, but we will talk about why YouTube is poisoned in a second. Because this gets into YouTube is also engaged in what I would consider a form of censorship using their algorithm. And I don't think I have to explain to you how we got to this point where people that are offended by things have gotten jobs and pushed platforms to have very strict moderation. And here's the kicker is then they wonder why they're getting fucked in the ass. And this is what happened on YouTube. So I was just watching I was catching up on Jim Sterling's channel, and I remembered why I unsubscribed. No, it wasn't because he transitioned. I've been gone for years. But one of the things Jim complains about is how LGBT content on YouTube is heavily buried. And I got to the point where SNL started a class action lawsuit. And YouTube, despite what people think, the world is not the internet. So you have a very large group of people that either don't accept trans identity or they don't accept gay people or whatever. And if you come out as any of those LGBT things, you will likely be buried in the algorithm and be relegated to word of mouth. That's just kind of the way YouTube works, is because they promote non-problematic, inoffensive content, and this is when I get into sterility. Sterilization of the user base is what I always warn about with these platforms, where you can't have it too sanitary, because then things that are normally considered unoffensive are offensive to the vast majority of people. And I really think that we've hit the point where moderation has gotten way too strict, and corporations really don't have any political side, despite what people will say. They'll say, oh, they only ban conservatives, but you can see leftists that have gotten banned. Quote, leftists, whatever that constitutes in America that doesn't really have a concept of a left wing. But you have people like Vosh and Hasanabi that get banned along with Destiny. And these people are generally fairly, I guess you could say, controversial, but whatever. They end up getting banned for hate speech or some shit. It's fucking retarded. But we've reached this point on the platform where we now have very strict moderation and we have to look for alternatives. Now, the problem is, when you have strict moderation, guess who goes to the alternative platforms? People that have already been banned. So it's why I always highly caution against having strict moderation, where if somebody says something you don't like, you kind of just have to ignore it, because the alternative to that is to start banning people. And when you start banning people, not only do you lose your user base, but they move to another platform. And eventually you will get banned. And that's what I always say about proprietary software, is that you will always get fucked in the ass if you use proprietary software. It doesn't matter what it is. And these services, because they will bury your content based on its LGBT content, we have reached the point of heavy moderation, to the point where I want to say, like, things that people it's kind of a poetic justice in a way, because these same people that banned all these conservatives, those were the people who said, or who were actually into free speech at the time. Not these fake conservatives that say free speech, but only for me. I'm talking about like the people who actually wanted, free dialogue, free discussion, without all these corporate overlords. And they warned you about that. They said, hey, if you start banning people, you're next on the block because your content is no better. You constantly go after corporations. Corporations really don't like that. They will lobby the fuck against you. And people didn't get that. People thought, oh, the corporations are on our side because they have their Pride Day parades, But no, they have never been on your side. They will never be on your side. And I always have to stress that the actual LGBT community is a far cry from what corporations would call the LGBT. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. They really have a very surface level understanding of black issues. And this is a problem because corporations will get sold a line. If you say something like Black Lives Matter, how the fuck are you going to argue against that? There's no possible way to argue against that unless you're an actual racist. So what happens is they get sold this line, they get free publicity, they spend a bit of money on it, on some, diversity hire or whatever to get in the program. But what happens is they know they don't have a true understanding of what's going on. And then people are sort of confused when I bring up these issues, and I say, oh yeah, well, in public health there's this issue where black doctors are actually more prejudiced against black patients because they aren't lower class, so they don't actually understand what it's like to be a lower class black person, so they think they're all fucking pillheads. And people are like, why is nobody talking about this? I said, well, that's because it's relegated to academia. You're not going to hear this from a corporation because they don't want to talk about the actual issues. What they want is sterility. They want to sterilize you. They want to clean you the fuck up. They want control over you, and I keep trying to tell people this, but nobody fucking listens to me. Instead, they beg for this censorship. They want this censorship, and I have to tell people, you either have no censorship or you have too much censorship. There is now no longer any in between. And we've reached that point where you kind of have to make a choice, do you want yourself to be banned? And they will still retain a monopoly even if they ban all their LGBT creators, because sadly you still make up a small minority of content, and you will be buried and you will be censored for it. And I bring that up as the example because anything too political, anything deeply political will never get pushed to the top of the algorithm, because real politics are fucking dirty. They are not sterile, they are not clean. There's deep issues being discussed, and when you have something that's too deep, when it's not surface level, you get these, the corporation starts noticing and they start burying your content because you're too fucking deep, And I had to warn people about this. I said, these same people that were saying, oh, you must be a triggered snowflake. Well, those snowflakes got fucking jobs. And those jobs are, here, we need to make everything as unoffensive as possible to appeal to this denomination. Or demographic or whatever. And people didn't get that. But when I tried to explain to them, hey, if you go on to another platform, you're going to have to see anti-Semitism, you're going to have to see racism, somebody's going to say something that's really offensive to you. You're going to have to fucking deal with it, because your alternative is you're going to get banned from this platform because you are not clean enough. And people don't seem to get that. They always think that they're safe, that they never push the line, they never toe the line. And I tell them, this is the same argument that if I have nothing to say, I don't need free speech, I don't need free speech because I have nothing to say. Eventually, you should have something to say, and if you don't, I hate to tell you this, but you may not be fit for online discussion, you know what I mean? I try not to discuss too many deep issues on this channel just because I mostly talk about free software, but for this particular one where I'm discussing YouTube being actual poison, like poisoning the minds of its user base, using mind control, using brainwashing, psychological techniques in order to control what you think. I get kind of deep into that, and there's only so much that I can really say about this, being not like an expert in any specific field. All I can make is this philosophical argument that when you have this level of censorship, you will get fucked. And it doesn't matter who you are, unless you are like the most completely inoffensive person on earth. You have absolutely brain dead takes on everything. You should always have something to say, and it should be your right to say it. Now, I don't mean that as in your legal right. I mean as in these platforms should not have control over the message being sent, but they do. And the more control that they take over people, the more we need to start looking for alternatives. This is kind of the reality we live in now. I want to say that's enough on this topic, you know. I really don't like how people tell me I'm the problem because I do have something to say, and people don't like that. They think, oh, you should be banned from every platform because the stuff you say may be problematic. And I say, well, you know, hey, at least I got something to say, and I need to have a place where I can say it, or else, you know, we're gonna have issues. And I kind of hate that you won't see this deep level discussion on any of these mainstream platforms because it's just straight up not allowed. And of course nobody's gonna see this video, so it doesn't even matter. I'm just fucking pissing in the wind here. But I think that is enough on this topic. I've ranted enough about it. I'll probably add something more to it later about YouTube being absolute disgusting trash and how we need to get off these fucking mainstream platforms, but that's for another day. Thanks.